I'm going to ask you a question right now, and I want you to give me an honest answer. How is it that living here in the United Kingdom, one of the richest countries in the world, how is it that yet so many people are really struggling to make ends meet? How is it that living here in the United Kingdom, one of the richest countries in the world, how is it that yet so many people are really struggling to make ends meet? How is it that we are in one of the richest countries in the world and yet there are people who are having to go to food banks? Why is it one of the richest countries in Europe, if not in the world, we are talking about a cost of living crisis? I want you to tell me, because I have my own ideas, but I want to know what your impression is. I want to know why it is that things have gone from bad to worse. I don't know if you're like me, but I've seen lots and lots of videos on YouTube, TikTok, on Facebook, where people have gone into supermarkets, into local stores, and they've compared the prices of things that have shot up. You know, food has just gone through the roof. Things that you bought 6 months ago, you're looking at the price now and thinking, how am I meant to make this work? People go to work, they make money, and yet the money doesn't seem to be enough to buy the staple things. More and more people are complaining about the cost of utilities or things like electricity and gas. How is it that we are having to make a decision? Do we heat the house or do we eat? There are people now that are going through these very, very difficult decisions and they're trying to work out what do they do. It doesn't make any sense to me. I get it. Someone's going to say, oh, it's inflation, or the war in Ukraine, or or there's logistic issues. I get it. There are things that are going on around the world that are affecting the cost of things. But we've always had these things, right? There's always been things that have affected us, and yet this seems to be a lot worse. Now, I know that it's very easy for us to point the finger, but yet I don't know if you're someone that follows the news, but I've seen that some of these companies are making billions of pounds in profits. Billions. And not just a few million, we're talking they are making billions and billions of pounds in profit. Meanwhile, you have people, you might know, it might be even you, it might be people that you know are literally thinking, how am I meant to feed my children? Or how am I meant to heat my house? So what I decided to do was try and do some research. Nothing major. Just let me find out what is the current state of play in the UK. What's going on? And then maybe it might make some sense to me. Around 14 to 16 million people in the UK live in poverty. Depending on the measure, with recent data, that shows 1 in 5 people, around 21 to 24% of the population that are affected. And that's going to include millions of children. Now, we've got people who are working, they're trying to make ends meet. We've got pensioners who are on fixed income, and they're all struggling. Now, I don't know about you, but that to me is just wrong. It is wrong on so many levels. I don't get it. I really, I don't get it. And I would love an answer. I would love for you guys to tell me, why is this happening? Why are we struggling? Why is it that we are working 40, 50, 60-hour weeks, I hear some people are doing, and yet it's still not enough to make ends meet? Some are having to do more than 1, 2. I've heard people, there are people that are doing 3 jobs. It's crazy. Trying to make enough to be able to feed their families, heat their homes, and maybe even have something nice at Christmas, to give to family, or maybe even a little vacation. But for some, they can't even afford that. And we're not even going to talk about debt, because that to me is the only option. If you run out of money, you get paid, you're living payday to payday, and you get to the point where you've run out of money, you're going to end up going into credit card debt. There's no other option really, is there? And then that's a slippery slope. You hear about Klarna and all these other payment options that you have where you can get the thing now and pay down later and this, that and the other. And that kind of pushes it down the road. But that's in itself a really bad thing, isn't it? I mean, I don't know. I genuinely want to know, because sometimes you can sort of be in your own world and you can sort of be, ticking over, and you don't realize how other people are living. You don't see what they're doing. You don't know what they're going through. Now, I know that there are let's face it, there are lots of very, very rich people out there and they make lots and lots of money, and they're probably thinking, what are you talking about? But I've seen so many people who have just done like a shop in Tesco's, and what they bought 3 months ago, they can't even afford now. That doesn't make sense. Christmas has this feels to me, maybe you'll be able to tell me yourself, but this feels to me like the most un-Christmas Christmas we've ever had. It feels very much like people are struggling to make ends meet, that they've had to make a sacrifice, and that sacrifice has been Christmas. It feels like there's a lot less people actually spending money. They have less disposable income to be able to go out and buy nice things. And that is sad. That is so sad. And obviously, there are some people that they don't even have a home. They're homeless. And we have so many homes in this country. I look at some of these new builds, some of these really sort of fancy houses. The lights are on, but there's no one at home. There's no one living in these homes. It feels like we went through this mad, crazy build. We built loads of new swanky flats and nice houses, but no one's buying them. Some of the young people that I work with have literally said to me that they will never be able to purchase a home. They're never going to be able to afford a home. They're never going to be able to go out and buy for themselves security. They're going to be renting for the rest of their life. That isn't right. And what is the incentive for young people to work? If they are working so many hours just to make ends meet, but the money that they're making is not enough just to pay for simple things like electricity, gas, food, they just about have enough to pay their rent. How do they save? How are they able to buy a little bit so that they can have a better future? Another crazy thing, and again, I'm going to put this out to you guys and hopefully you might have an answer here, is when I started working, and I'm one of the old people, so I apologise now, it was drummed into me at a very young age that you put your money into a pension. You sacrifice a little bit of the money that you are working for to put away for your later years so that you'll be able to have a little bit of comfort. Well, a lot of the youngsters that I work with, they can't even afford to put money into a pension. So they are kicking that can down the road. They're quite literally saying, I don't even have enough to live now, so why am I saving for the future? And it's sad because I think, to me, that's a ticking time bomb. I don't think this government is here to help us. I don't think this government or any government is going to be looking out for us. They are so in debt. They have wasted so much money on nonsense. They are wasting money on whatever it is that they do. Because to be honest with you, I try my best not to get too involved in this, but it is very difficult when you think, how are you meant to get ahead? How are you meant to make life better for yourself if the job that you're in isn't paying enough to be able to buy some of the nicer things or just live comfortably? Now, I know I saw in the news recently that in general, our wages as a whole have gone up. But that isn't the problem. The problem is it hasn't gone in line with inflation. And so things have actually got worse. There's too much money in supply. There's too much money out in there. And so it's driven prices up. And so we may think, oh, we've got a pay rise, but the loaf of bread is 30p more, or the fuel is pence more. The things that we would have bought and would have been able to enjoy have now gone crazily expensive, and we just can't afford it. And you know, when you think it's very easy for us to moan, and it's very easy to just be frustrated and to think, what do we do? But I don't hear anyone giving a solution. Oh, in fact, no, that's not true. I have heard people say, well, you know, it's wealth inequality. We need to get money from the rich, tax the rich, and then they help the poor. But to me, it's you tax the rich, and then the money will just get squandered on stupid projects that make and do not help us, the average Joey, the average person that's working, just trying to make ends meet. That money won't go there. And then once the rich get, you know, wise to what's going on, they're going to run. They're going to hide their money in the Cayman Islands, or they'll hide their money in banks in wherever it is that they can hide it, in these new, you know, these fantastic schemes where you're able to hide your money from the tax man. You know, people like us, the average person, we can't do that. Our money gets paid into a bank account and we just have to pay our bills with it. These guys, it gets paid into trusts and companies, and they're able to hide the money and not pay the same amount that we pay. So big, massive conglomerates and these huge, massive organizations, they pay a lot of money. I'm not saying they don't pay money, but they don't pay anywhere near as much. In fact, when you think that these billionaires will one day be trillionaires, and it's only a matter of time before these guys are so rich and so completely detached from reality that it will be almost no point. And that, to me, is the worry. At the moment, we're frustrated. We may be saying things like, oh, what the hell? You know, the cost of living's gone up and we're so frustrated. But we haven't downed tools and started, you know, storming the Bastille yet. We haven't got to that stage yet. But I almost feel like at some stage it will. I almost feel that it's going to get to the point where the average person is going to say, enough is enough. I just want to be able to feed my family. I want to be able to give my children something. We are now looking at people being sucked into poverty that 20 years ago would not have been sucked into poverty. We are looking at people who actually would be earning a good wage. I mean, I don't know about you, but if I said to you, well, you know, someone that earns £50,000 a year, that should be more than enough to be able to live, right? And yet, right now, there are studies that show that it's not enough. £50,000 will not buy you a home. You know, unless you save God knows how much of your income. And yeah, you can say live below your means, but it's almost impossible to be able to do that and still be able to live comfortably. You're going to need to make a sacrifice. And before I hear someone shoot me down and say, oh, you know, don't have your avocado toast in your coffee. That isn't it. That isn't it. That ship sailed a long time ago. It's got nothing to do with if you're going to get a coffee or you're going to be able to have something nice on your way to work. It's about the fact that when you get your wages at the end of the month or at the end of the week, it is just not enough to be able to live. Because food's gone up, energy's gone up, the cost of living has gone up, and our wages can't keep up. They just can't. And I want you to tell me, especially in the comments, because that's where I learn, what's your experience? What have you learned, or what have you seen in your experience with what's going on right now? Because I don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't understand how I can go to the shop and spend, I don't know, £100 and it's not enough. It's just not enough. And you think, why is that not enough? And if I do that for the week, by the end of the month, what's £400 has been spent on food, and it's still not enough. Or, and I don't know, this is another thing as well. I was wondering this the other day. I have an app for my energy company, and I was trying to work out how much money I spend per day. I have dual, so I have electricity and gas with the same company. And I wanted to know, what is the average amount that you spend per day? So when you look at your app and it says, this is what I spend per day on electricity and gas, you know, per day, what's your average spend? Now mine's working out to about £7. Now that may not seem like a lot, but it is. It really, really is a lot of money. And I think all I'm doing is cooking a meal and keeping me, my wife, and my children warm. Is that normal? Is that normal? Is it low? Is £7 on the lower end? Or is it on the higher end? What is your average? What are you paying? Because I don't know, it just I look at that, I think that does seem like a lot of money that I'm spending per week just on electricity and gas. And then this is what I mean. It's one of these things where I'm asking you to just sort of give me a bit of clarity, because, you know, you can speak to people at work or you can speak to friends and, you know, you get an idea, but it's just in general. This is my way of being able to speak en masse to hundreds of people if you watch the video. And if you do, hit the thumbs up, please, and subscribe. But I want your opinion and I want your thoughts on what's going on, because I don't think this makes, oh, sorry, I just hit I don't think this makes sense. And if I don't think it makes sense, I want to know if you think the same. Yeah, I just would love to get your opinion on stuff and just to sort of work out, why are we struggling here in one of the richest countries in the world? Why is it that I have friends that are nurses who literally are worth their weight in gold. They are doing so much to keep us healthy and keep us safe, in the sense of when we go into the hospital, they take care of us. They're doing some of the jobs that you wouldn't want to do. I wouldn't want to do it. They're doing it. And they're having to go to food banks. I don't get that. I don't get it. I don't understand. It's not right. Am I overreacting? This is not normal. It's just not something that I can ever understand or accept. And I don't think you should accept it either. And I think that we're going to get to that point now where we need to say, enough is enough. We're not doing this anymore. And if you're like me, we need to complain. We need to complain. We do need to complain. We really, really do. Because I saw in the news the other day that they said that inflation's falling. But yet things are still so flipping expensive. And so expensive to the point where we just can't afford it. Look, I'll leave it there. I think I've moaned enough. If you're still here, thank you very much for listening to me. It frustrates me so much. I don't think you understand how much it frustrates me. Because I don't want this to be the reality for my children. I don't want this to be the reality for your children. If we don't do something about it, our children will be the ones that will suffer. They're going to suffer more than us. There's that song. I remember hearing it. It says something like, if you tolerate this, then your children will be next. Those words are so poignant right now. Because if we allow this to continue, our children will literally have nothing. And we can't let that happen.